Hello everyone, and welcome to Thursday, October 5th, 2023. I'm Lori with Behavior Education at Spirit Keeper Animal Sanctuary, and this week I'm going to share some information with you that came up during one of my Patreon training and behavior chats. So it came up in the discussion that somebody had been bitten during a training session when they were delivering the food, and I asked exactly how that happened and for the person to describe to me where they were standing, how long the tongs were, how long the target was, and in what manner they were delivering the food during the session. The reason I wanted all that information is because all of that information helps me determine how I can best advise them to make sure that doesn't happen again in the future. Now, I've added a calendar here next to my food storage area and my food weighing area, and it's already set on January of 2024, which is literally only a couple of months away. Now, the reason I bring that up is in January, it will be 6 years since I started working with snakes extensively. Now, I had a pet snake for many years before that, but I mean professionally started working with snakes. It's almost 6 years. And I have never been bitten during a training session. I have never been bitten while feeding a snake. I've actually only ever been bitten by one snake in my entire life. And we have over 100 snakes here, and it's going on 6 years since I've been working with them professionally. Only one snake has ever bitten me, and we can talk about those circumstances in another video, but I've never been bitten by a snake around food. I often handle my snakes around food, and I train them every time I feed them, just as routine, whether it's a super simple just training session or whether we do a complicated behavior. So one of the tips that I had for my Patreon group during our behavior and training chat was that I recommend that you try to make sure that your tongs and your target are the same length. Now, these are almost the exact same length, but if they're not, if one is a little bit longer than the other, which this target is a little bit longer than my tongs. But when I am delivering the food and doing the training session, I want to make sure that whether I am just pairing the target with food like this. So if there was food in these tongs, let's just pretend like this is my food and I'm pairing it. What I want to do is make sure that my hands are the same distance away from the end of the tongs and the end of the target. So whether I'm standing directly behind the target and the tongs and the snake is in front of them, or whether I'm standing at a 90-degree angle to them, I want to make sure that these are about the same length. And that is because I'm showing the target, the snake interacts with it, and then I go to deliver the food reinforcer. What I don't want to have to do if the snake has their face interacting with the target here is I don't want to have to move my body. I want to move as little as possible. So I don't want to have short tongs and have to move in like this to deliver the food. I want to be able to stay exactly where I'm at and not move my body and deliver the food on the end of the tongs without my hand getting closer and also without having to move my body towards the snake. So that's my tip number one. Okay, so we're gonna feed Luma and do a target training session with her, and you really should not have your hands or your body anywhere near where the snake could accidentally get them. So you're not even really gonna see me in this video. And first of all, Luma's not looking yet. I'm just gonna hold the target here until she notices it. And I am moving the target, and I'm actually stepping away from her a little bit. So I have my hand at the very, very end of the target stick, which I don't think you can see. But again, you don't want to be within strike range of the snake, and you shouldn't have your hands anywhere near the target. So there's her little head popping up, and I'm gonna put the food up here, and I'm still not bringing my body towards the target. My hand is nowhere near where she is gonna strike. I am at a 90-degree angle to where she's at, and I'm just gonna hold this here until she takes it, and then I'm gonna step away. Okay, so at no time during that training session did I put myself in a position where she could reach me or where she could strike me. And I don't know how she would accidentally bite me during a training session like that. So the important things are your antecedent arrangement, your training plan, how you've set up the environment ahead of time, thought it through, okay? Think first, then act. So think it through. What equipment are you going to use? What length of target and tongs are you going to use? Where are you going to stand for the training session? How are you going to open the door, get in position? How are you going to deliver the reinforcer? And think to yourself, is there any possible way during this scenario that I've set up for this training session that the snake could bite me, that the snake could reach me, that something could go wrong and injure me or the snake? And the answer to that should be no if you've thought it through and planned it out before you just rush into a training session. So Luma did very well. Luma is a pinstripe Python Regis. She's been with me almost a year, since November 12th, 2022 is when I got her. So this is October 5th, 2023. So next month will be her 1-year anniversary with me. As you can see, she's doing very well. My second tip is, especially when the snakes are first learning, or if you're working with a snake that is highly impulsive and has some issues with delay of reinforcement and impulse control or inhibitory control. In other words, maybe they're a snake that tends to strike at the target without thinking, or strike first and then settle into the training session. You really want to make sure that you have a target long enough that if the snake strikes out and misses the target, that they are not going to hit you. So you're going to judge the length of your target stick on the length of your snake's strike ability. So this is one of the original target sticks that I made many, many years ago. And it's a little bit shorter. I have tongs that are just about the same length. And so this would be something I'd work with when I am training a snake that's more skilled, that I've worked with a lot, that I know very well, that I'm not afraid to get a little bit closer to during the training session, and I know isn't going to get easily confused, because these are kind of short. And then on the flip side of that, this is a super long target stick. In fact, I've taped two target sticks together. And this was the target stick I was using to work with the snake that was relinquished to us for biting. And I started target training, and I wanted to make sure that if he struck out at me, or if he missed the target, or if he smelled the food, because I always keep the food out of sight, and then I bring the food up and out to the snake once I'm ready to deliver it. Again, for this snake, I would want tongs longer than this. And what you can do in this case is you can tape a food delivery system on the end of a very long pole, the way I've taped this target to the end of a pole, or you can use the snake tongs that are meant for snake handling and capture. Those are much, much longer. You can actually use those to deliver food too. So I'm gonna make sure that this is long enough that I don't have to get anywhere near the snake, and if they accidentally miss the target and strike, it's not gonna hit me. And I wanna make sure that my tongs are long enough that I can reach this target with them without having to move my hand in, without having to move my body closer, without me having to move anything at all. And I'm gonna make this shorter so it stays in frame. All I have to do is bring the food up and deliver it in front of the target, or pair it with the target, and my hands are always kept back by my body. So if you have any questions about this, feel free to contact me at behavioreducationllc@gmail.com, or through my website at behavioreducation.org, or you can reach me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I am on Twitter, but I hardly ever log into that. Or of course, comment right here on YouTube. I also want to reiterate the reason that most all of my targets are blue and green is because the snakes that I work with can see colors or perceive colors within the blue-green color spectrum, and that is based on scientific research. That's based on the best information that I can find within the scientific literature. Boas and pythons, many colubrids, many reptiles have dichromatic vision, which means that they can see blues and greens, and most everything else looks like shades of black and white or gray. So that's why I often use blue and green targets, because those are going to stand out and be very salient to the snake visually. So they are seeing lots of different contrasting shades of blacks and whites and grays, and they see blue or green, and that is immediately going to stand out to them, and it helps keep them more focused during the target training session. Something else I want to mention to you guys is Luma, who you just saw do a training session, was an older Royal when I got her. She was probably 5 years old last year when I got her, but that's just an estimate. And she didn't eat for 7 months when she first got here, but she got here in November, which is winter in Colorado. She didn't lose any weight during that time. She was very active and behaving normally, and she had been to the vet 2 or 3 times. So at any rate, she didn't eat for 7 months. She didn't lose any weight. My vet was not concerned. We suspect that the older Royals get, the less frequently they need to eat, the less calories they need to eat, and that it's likely very normal for them to not need to eat during certain times of the year like winter. Now, you're about to see Betty do a target training session, and a couple of things I want you to note about Betty's session, again, is you're not going to see me because I'm not close enough to her that if for some reason she struck out in my direction, she could hit me. The target and the tongs are long enough that I can stand where I am and be very still and present the target and deliver the food without moving towards her or without making any big body movements. I want to mention that Betty was 24, 25 years old when she was brought here, and she was relinquished for not eating. She'd only ever eaten live her whole life. She hadn't been eating, so her owners relinquished her to our animal sanctuary. She didn't eat with us for a year, and then she just started eating. And I saw a behavior change in her that indicated to me that she was likely hungry. Again, she'd had a couple of wellness exams at our vet. The vet said she's perfectly healthy, there's no problem. We did the viral screening, and she didn't lose any weight that whole time. So we don't really know the metabolism and the caloric needs of a 25-year-old Python Regis. They may just not need to eat very often. And I want to mention again that she was also brought to us during winter. Luma is eating mice and rats, and Betty right now is eating mice, rats, and birds. The better they get at target training and the more they settle into that routine, it's a lot easier to introduce prey variety that way. They think a lot less about what they're about to eat and just the fact that they understand that now the food's about to be presented. Well, everybody, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, everybody, please remember to always be kind and love your animals.